The red warning lights flashed across the bridge of the Xanathi flagship. Admiral Kethver's six eyes darted between the holographic displays showing the destruction of yet another colony world. The Vorthan Empire was winning, and winning badly. "Sir, we have lost contact with the Meridian Station," reported his communications officer. The young Xanathi's voice shook with fear. "That makes 12 outposts in the past month." Kethver's long fingers gripped the edge of his command chair. His people were scholars and philosophers, not warriors. The same was true for most of the Galactic Defense Council. The Krell were diplomats who preferred to talk their way out of problems. The Syrians were brilliant engineers but terrible fighters. None of them had prepared for an enemy like the Vorthans. The Vorthan Empire had appeared from the outer rim like a plague. They destroyed everything in their path and showed no interest in negotiation. Their black warships moved through space, like hungry beasts, leaving nothing but wreckage behind them. Every attempt at peaceful contact had ended with the destruction of the diplomatic vessels. "How long until they reach the core worlds?" Kethver asked his tactical officer. "At their current rate of advance, 6 months, perhaps less," Commander Nixtel replied. His forearms worked quickly across the sensor controls. "Our forces cannot match their speed or their firepower. They seem to enjoy the fighting." That was what scared Kethver the most. The Vorthans did not fight for resources or territory. They fought because they wanted to. It was something his peaceful people could not understand. How could any species find joy in causing pain and death? "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we are receiving distress signals from 14 colonies. They all say the same thing. The Vorthans are coming." Kethver closed his eyes. His people had built a civilization based on knowledge and peace. They had explored the galaxy, made contact with dozens of species, and created a council where all voices could be heard. Now it was all falling apart because they had never learned how to fight. "Send out a general distress call," he ordered. "Emergency broadcast on all frequencies. Request immediate military assistance from any available forces." "Sir, we have already contacted every member of the Defense Council," Nixtel sighed. "The Krell are sending their negotiation teams. The Syrians are offering to share their shield technology. But no one has a real army." "Then we cast a wider net," Kethver said. "Send the message to every species in our database, even the ones we have never contacted directly." The communications officer's eyes widened. "Sir, that includes the restricted files, the species marked as too dangerous for contact." "Desperate times," Kethver muttered. "Do it." The message went out across the galaxy. It was simple and direct. The Galactic Defense Council needed help. They needed soldiers who could fight. They needed them now. Most species that received the message ignored it. Some sent polite refusals. Others offered supplies or medical aid. But from one small blue world in a distant spiral arm, the response was different. General Jake Morrison sat in his office at the Pentagon, reading the translated message for the 3rd time. The language was formal and polite, but he could hear the desperation behind the words. These aliens were facing extinction, and they were asking for help. "Sir," his aide entered the room, The President wants to know if we are really going to respond to this." Morrison looked up from the report. "A peaceful civilization is being destroyed by warlike invaders. They are asking for military assistance. What do you think we should do?" "Well, sir, they are aliens. We do not know anything about them or their conflict. They are asking for help against bullies," Morrison said. "That is all I need to know." Within hours, the decision was made. The United States would respond to the alien distress call. Other nations quickly followed. If humanity was going to make first contact with galactic civilization, they would do it as protectors, not conquerors. Captain Lisa Parker received her orders while her ship was docked at the orbital station. The New Horizon was one of the newer vessels built for deep space exploration. Now it would carry soldiers instead of scientists. "How many troops can we fit?" she asked her first officer. 2,000 if we convert the cargo bays," he replied. "But that will be tight quarters for a long journey." "These aliens need help," Parker said. "We will make room." The loading began immediately. Sergeant Danny Walsh supervised the boarding of his Marine unit. These were experienced soldiers who had fought in conflicts across Earth. They had trained for every type of warfare their world could offer. Listen up, Walsh told his men. We are going to space to help some aliens fight a war. I do not know what we will find out there, but I know what we bring to the fight. We are humans, and humans do not give up. Dr. Amy Johnson, the unit's medic, packed her supplies carefully. She had no idea what alien biology would be like, but she knew how to keep humans alive in hostile conditions. That would have to be enough. Pete Collins, the chief engineer, worked to modify the ship's systems for combat. The New Horizon had not been built as a warship, but humans were good at adapting their tools for new purposes. As the ship prepared to leave Earth's orbit, the crew received additional information about their destination. The galaxy was vast, filled with hundreds of intelligent species. Most of them were peaceful and civilized. They had built a society based on cooperation and mutual respect, but the files also contained disturbing information. Earth was classified as a Class 12 death world. Only a handful of planets in the galaxy received that rating. Most species considered such worlds uninhabitable. The fact that intelligent life had evolved on Earth was considered almost impossible. Captain, the communications officer reported, we are receiving a message from the alien fleet. They want to know our estimated arrival time. Tell them we will be there in 12 days, Parker replied, and tell them that help is coming. The New Horizon and dozens of other human vessels began their journey to the war zone. They carried soldiers who had been forged by the most dangerous world in known space. They had no idea that the galaxy was about to learn what Deathworld inhabitants could do when their friends were threatened. In the depths of space, the Vorthan Empire continued its advance. They had conquered dozens of worlds and faced no real resistance. Soon they would learn that their easy victories were about to end. The humans were coming, and they brought with them the fury of a world that had tried to kill them every day of their lives. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Nexus Prime system. Captain Lisa Parker stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, watching the displays show the battle raging around the besieged colony. Vorthan warships circled the planet like predators, their black hulls gleaming in the light of the dying sun. My God, whispered her first officer. Look at the size of their fleet. Parker counted at least 50 enemy vessels. The defending Galactic Defense Council ships were outnumbered 3-1. Several alien vessels drifted in space, their hulls cracked open like broken eggs. Captain, the communications officer reported, we are receiving a transmission from the Xanathi flagship. Admiral Kethver wants to speak with our commander. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of an alien vessel. Admiral Kethver appeared on screen, his 6 eyes blinking in what Parker assumed was surprise. The alien was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and movements that seemed almost fragile. Greetings, Kethver said in heavily accented English. I am Admiral Kethver of the Galactic Defense Council. We are grateful for your response to our distress call. Admiral, I am Captain Lisa Parker of the human vessel New Horizon. We have brought military assistance as requested. Kethver's eyes shifted nervously. Captain, we have reviewed your planetary data. Your homeworld is classified as a Class 12 death world. We were not aware that intelligent life could survive on such a planet. We manage, Parker replied simply. What is the tactical situation? The Vorthan Empire has been besieging Nexus Prime for 3 months. They have superior numbers and firepower. Our forces are barely holding the orbital defense platforms. Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Torres stepped forward. He was a veteran of conflicts across Earth with scars on his face that told stories of battles fought and won. Admiral, we need to deploy ground forces to the planet's surface. Can you provide landing coordinates? Kethver's 6 eyes widened in horror. Colonel, the surface is under constant bombardment. The Vorthans control most of the northern continent. No one can survive down there. That is where we need to go, Torres said calmly. We specialize in impossible situations. Within hours, the human dropships were racing toward the planet's surface. Torres rode in the lead ship with his assault team. Sergeant Danny Walsh checked his rifle for the 100th time. The weapon was simple but effective, designed to work in any environment Earth could produce. "Remember," Torres told his men over the intercom, "we are here to help. These aliens are not used to this kind of fighting. We show them how it is done." Kate Murphy, the demolitions expert, grinned as she patted her pack of explosives. "I have been waiting my whole life for a chance to blow up alien technology." The dropships screamed through the atmosphere as Vorthan plasma bolts lit up the sky around them. 3 ships were hit, but they kept flying. Human engineering had learned to build things that could survive punishment. Alex Carter, the unit's sniper, watched the ground rush up to meet them. "Landing zone is hot," he reported. "I count at least 200 Vorthan soldiers in the immediate area." "Good," Torres replied. "We like a challenge." The dropships touched down in a storm of enemy fire. The human soldiers poured out, immediately taking cover and returning fire. The Vorthan weapons were energy-based, creating brilliant flashes of light. The human weapons were simple projectiles, but they were deadly accurate. Got above in orbit. Admiral Keffer watched the battle through his sensors. His tactical officer, Commander Nixtal, was making worried clicking sounds with his throat. "Sir, the human forces are advancing directly into the heaviest enemy fire," Nixtal reported. "They are not taking cover. They are not retreating. They are running toward the enemy positions." "That cannot be correct," Keffer said. "No species would use such tactics." But the sensors did not lie. The human soldiers were charging across open ground, firing as they ran. When they reached the Vorthan positions, they did not stop to establish defensive lines. They kept moving, pushing deeper into enemy territory. Dr. Helen Brooks was with the second wave of dropships. She was a xenobiologist sent to study alien life forms. But as she watched the human soldiers fight, she realized the aliens would be studying them instead. "Dr. Brooks!" came a voice over her radio. It was Healer Zephalon, the Xanathi medic who had volunteered to work with the humans. "I am treating wounded human soldiers. Their injuries should be fatal, but they continue fighting. How is this possible?" Brooks smiled grimly. "Healer, humans evolved on a world where everything was trying to kill us. We learned to keep going even when we are hurt." On the ground, Torres and his team had advanced 5 kilometers into enemy territory. The Vorthans had never faced an enemy like this. Their weapons were designed to stop civilized species who would retreat when injured. Humans just kept coming. "Colonel," Walsh reported, "we have taken the enemy supply depot, but we are taking heavy casualties." "Define heavy," Torres replied as he treated a wound on his arm. 15% wounded, 3% dead, Torres nodded. "Acceptable losses. Continue the advance." High above, on the Vorthan command ship, Warlord Thexmar studied the battle reports with growing confusion. His species had conquered dozens of worlds using the same tactics. They overwhelmed the enemy with superior firepower, and the civilized species would surrender to avoid further casualties. "Warlord," his intelligence officer reported, "the human forces have taken 6 strategic positions in the past 4 hours. They are not requesting reinforcements. They are not asking for medical evacuation. They are just fighting." "What are their casualty rates?" Thexmar demanded. 20% wounded, but they continue to fight." "We have never seen anything like this." Thexmar's mandibles clicked in agitation. "Are these humans a warrior species?" "According to our database. They are from a Class 12 Deathworld. Most species consider such planets uninhabitable. And yet they have space travel and military technology," Thexmar mused. "What kind of species evolves on a world trying to kill them?" The answer came in the form of more battle reports. Human soldiers were fighting in conditions that would kill most galactic species. They moved through toxic swamps, survived in areas with no breathable atmosphere, and continued fighting with injuries that should have been fatal, Captain Rachel. Stone flew her fighter through a meteor shower that had grounded all other aircraft. She was rescuing wounded soldiers from a crash site that the Vorthons had declared impossible to reach. "This is Stone," she reported over the radio. "I have visual on the crash site. The Vorthon forces have pulled back. They seem to think the area is too dangerous." "Copy that, Stone," Torres replied. "Standard Tuesday for us." By the end of the first day, the human forces had advanced 20 kilometers into enemy territory. They had taken strategic positions that the Vorthons had held for months. Most importantly, they had done something no other species had managed to do in 3 months of fighting. They had made the Vorthons afraid. Warlord Thexmar stared at the tactical display, watching his forces retreat from positions they had held since the beginning of the siege. "What are these humans?" he asked his staff. "They are Deathworld Inhabitants," his intelligence officer replied. "They come from a planet that should have killed them long ago. And now they are here to kill us," Thexmar said quietly. The first day of human involvement in the war was over. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you asked for help from a species that considered survival a daily challenge. Staff Sergeant Mike Rogers had been fighting for 18 straight hours without rest. His uniform was torn, his face was covered in dirt and blood, but his eyes were still sharp and focused. The Xanathi soldiers who fought alongside him watched in amazement as he continued to move with the same energy he had shown at the beginning of the battle. "Sergeant Rogers," called out Lieutenant Velinara, a young Xanathi officer, "you must rest. Your body needs time to recover." Rogers smiled as he reloaded his weapon. "Ma'am, I once stayed awake for 3 days straight during a hurricane back on Earth. This is just another day at the office." The Xanathi officer's 6 eyes blinked in confusion. "A hurricane? You fought during a natural disaster?" "We had to," Rogers replied. "The storm knocked out power to a hospital. People needed help, so we helped them." Velinara looked at the other human soldiers. They all seemed to have the same endless energy. Her own people needed 8 hours of rest every day. After 12 hours of fighting, most Xanathi soldiers would collapse from exhaustion. But these humans just kept going. Combat engineer Laver Davis was working on a problem that had stumped the alien engineers for weeks. The Vorthons had built a force field generator that protected their command bunker. Every attempt to destroy it had failed. The alien weapons could not penetrate the shield. "I need some metal scraps, a power cell, and about 30 minutes. Davis told the Syrian engineer Think Quick Veltar. "Engineer Davis, we have tried every weapon in our arsenal." Veltar said. His mechanical voice sounded frustrated. "The shield is too strong." "You have been thinking like engineers," Davis replied as she sorted through a pile of battlefield debris. "I am thinking like a human who grew up fixing broken things with whatever was available." She pulled out pieces of destroyed Vorthon equipment, some alien power cables and a damaged human radio. Within minutes, she had built something that looked like a crude bomb. "This will create an electromagnetic pulse," she explained. "It will not destroy the shield, but it will disrupt the power flow for about 10 seconds. 10 seconds is not enough time to destroy the bunker," Veltar pointed out. Davis grinned. "It is enough time for humans." The plan was simple and insane. The moment the shield flickered, Lieutenant Colonel Torres and his team would sprint across 50 meters of open ground, plant explosives on the bunker, and get out before the shield came back online. Any species would need at least 30 seconds to complete such a mission. The humans did it in 8 seconds. Krell. Ambassador Wise Speaker Quindal was documenting everything for the Galactic Council. His species prided themselves on being careful observers, but what he was seeing challenged everything he thought he knew about intelligent life. "The humans can survive in temperatures that would kill most of us within minutes," he dictated to his recording device. "They can go without food for days. They can function with injuries that would leave other species helpless. Most disturbing of all, they seem to become more effective fighters when they are stressed or injured." He watched as pilot Rachel Stone prepared for another rescue mission. The area she was flying to was filled with toxic gas from a damaged Vorthon chemical plant. The gas would kill most species in seconds, but Stone was preparing to fly through it to rescue trapped soldiers. Rachel, are you sure about this? Asked her co-pilot, a young Xanathi named Kickstar. I have flown through worse storms on Earth, Stone replied as she sealed her helmet. At least this gas is not trying to freeze me solid or cook me alive. Your planet has weather that tries to cook you? Kickstar asked in horror. Hurricanes, tornadoes, blizzards, heat waves, floods, droughts, Stone listed casually. Earth keeps U.S. on our toes. The rescue mission was a success. Stone flew through the toxic cloud, located the trapped soldiers, and extracted them before the gas could breach their protective gear. For her, it was routine. For the watching aliens, it was impossible. Commander Torres received new orders from General Morrison. The humans were to infiltrate a Vorthan command center located on the far side of a toxic swamp. The swamp was filled with poisonous plants, acid pools, and creatures that could dissolve metal with their saliva. The Vorthans believe the swamp is impassable, Torres told his team. They have no guards on the far side of their base. Medic Sam Wright studied the mission briefing. Sir, this swamp would kill most species in minutes. Even we will need full protective gear. We have it, Torres replied. And we have something else the Vorthans do not expect. What is that, sir? We come from a world where places like this are called national parks. The infiltration team included Torres, Wright, communications specialist Nick Taylor, and demolitions expert Kate Murphy. They entered the swamp at dawn, moving carefully through the toxic water and deadly vegetation. Taylor set up communication relays as they moved. Command, this is Infiltration Team Alpha. We are making good progress. The local wildlife is less dangerous than the Australian outback. Copy that, Alpha, came the reply. Continue mission. The Vorthans never saw them coming. The enemy had stationed their command center in the middle of the swamp because they believed no intelligent species would be crazy enough to cross such dangerous terrain. They were wrong. The human team planted explosives throughout the facility, downloaded critical intelligence, and were back across the swamp before the Vorthans realized they had been compromised. The entire mission took 6 hours. Warlord Vexmar received the report with growing alarm. They crossed the poisoned swamp of Nexus Prime? That is impossible. Nothing can survive in that environment. Sir, the humans seem to consider it a minor inconvenience, his intelligence officer reported. They are now using the swamp as a regular route to attack our rear positions. What kind of world do these humans come from? Vexmar demanded. According to our latest intelligence, their homeworld has poisonous animals, deadly weather, carnivorous plants, and environmental hazards that would kill most species instantly. The officer replied, They call it home. The Vorthan forces began to retreat from 3 forward positions. For the first time in the war, they were pulling back not because of superior firepower or technology, but because they were afraid. The humans had done something that months of conventional warfare could not accomplish. They had broken Vorthan morale. Admiral Kethver watched the tactical display with a mixture of gratitude and terror. The humans were winning battles that should have been impossible to win. They were surviving in conditions that would kill his people in minutes. They were fighting with a ferocity that made even the warlike Vorthans afraid. Sir, Commander Nixtal reported, we are receiving requests from other sectors. They want human reinforcements. How many humans do we have? Kethver asked. Only 2,000 soldiers, Nixtal replied. But they are having the same effect as 20,000 regular troops. Kethver nodded slowly. He was beginning to understand why the humans had been classified as coming from a death world. They were not just survivors. They were the product of a world that had spent millions of years trying to kill them, and they had won. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you gave Deathworld Inhabitants a cause to fight for. The Vorthans had made the mistake of threatening the humans' new friends. That mistake would cost them everything. Major Chris Adams stood before a mixed group of human and alien soldiers in the bombed-out remains of a Nexus Prime city. The building around them was cracked and smoking, but it provided cover from the Vorthan patrols that swept the area every few hours. Listen up, Adams said to the assembled troops. We are going to show you something new. Humans call it coordinated assault tactics. The aliens call it pack hunting. Sergeant Emma Clark stepped forward. She had been training with Xanathi soldiers for a week, trying to teach them human concepts of warfare. The results had been mixed. The key is communication and trust, Clark explained to the group. When humans fight together, we do not just follow orders, we think as one unit. Lieutenant Zekanol, a Xanathi officer, raised one of his forearms. Sergeant Clark, our training manuals say that soldiers should maintain safe distances and avoid unnecessary risks. That is why you are losing the war, Clark replied bluntly. Safe distances mean you cannot support each other. Avoiding risks means you cannot take objectives. The mixed unit prepared for their first mission together. The target was a Vorthan supply depot that had been heavily fortified. Previous attacks by pure alien forces had failed with heavy casualties. Remember, Adams told the alien soldiers, when we move together. When we shoot together. When we advance together. The Krell soldier Speaksoft Hindle clicked his mandibles nervously. Major, what if we are separated during the attack? Then you find another human and stick with them, Adams replied. We will not leave you behind. The attack began at dawn. The human soldiers moved like a coordinated machine, each one knowing where the others would be without needing to communicate. They flowed around obstacles, covered each other's movements, and advanced as a single unit. The alien soldiers tried to follow, but their training worked against them. They had been taught to fight as individuals, to protect themselves first and complete the mission second. The humans had been taught the opposite. Clark, take your team left, Adams ordered over the radio. Murphy, explosives on the main gate, right, medical station behind the third building. The orders were simple, but the execution was perfect. Each human soldier knew their role and trusted their teammates to do theirs. The alien soldiers watched in amazement as the humans moved through the battlefield like they had been fighting together for years. Intelligence Officer Kevin Brown sat in the command bunker, monitoring Vorthan communications. What he was hearing made him smile grimly. Sir, he reported to General Morrison, the Vorthans are calling us the Pack Hunters in their transmissions. They seem to think we are a hive mind species. Morrison looked at the tactical display. What gave them that idea? They cannot understand how we coordinate so well without constant communication, Brown explained. Their species fights as individuals. They have never seen anything like human teamwork. The captured Vorthan communication logs were revealing. The enemy was struggling to understand how humans could fight so effectively as a unit. Their military analysts were trying to figure out if humans shared some kind of telepathic connection. The humans move as one organism, read one report. They seem to know what their companions will do before they do it. This suggests either telepathic abilities or extensive genetic modification for warfare. Neither was true. Humans had simply learned to work together because survival on Earth often required it. A human alone might die, but humans together could survive anything. Naval Commander Paul Stevens was having the same effect on the space battle. His tactical approach shocked the Krell fleet commanders, who had been trained to minimize casualties and preserve their ships. Commander Stevens, Admiral Kethfer called over the communication link, your battle plan shows acceptable losses of 30%. This is madness. Admiral, with respect, you have been fighting this war for 3 months and losing, Stevens replied. My plan will win the battle in 3 hours. But the cost in lives and ships ... is acceptable if it saves the planet, Stevens finished. Sometimes you have to risk everything to save everything. The space battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships used ramming tactics, suicide runs, and coordinated attacks that required crews to knowingly fly into certain death. The alien crews watched in horror as human vessels sacrificed themselves to create openings for their allies, but it worked. The Vorthan fleet, faced with enemies who seemed to welcome death if it meant victory, began to retreat. Their superior, Technology meant nothing against opponents who refused to be intimidated. Dr. Susan Bell worked alongside Syrian scientist Think-Quick Veltar in the medical bay. They were studying human biochemistry to understand how human soldiers could fight so effectively under stress. "This is impossible," Veltar said, his mechanical voice filled with confusion. "When humans are injured or threatened, their bodies produce natural combat stimulants. They actually become more dangerous when they are hurt. It is called adrenaline," Bell explained. "Our bodies prepare us for fight or flight. But humans usually choose fight. Most species become less effective when injured," Veltar noted. "They seek safety and healing. Humans seek revenge." The medical data was disturbing to the peaceful aliens. Human soldiers who had been wounded in battle often returned to fight before they were fully healed. They seemed to take injuries personally, as if the enemy had insulted them. "They are not just fighting for victory," Bell observed. "They are fighting for each other. When you hurt one human, you make all humans angry." The psychological reports were equally revealing. Vorthan prisoners were showing signs of trauma that had nothing to do with physical injury. They were afraid of the humans in a way that went beyond normal fear of enemies. "The humans do not just defeat you," one captured Vorthan officer said during questioning. "They make you feel like prey." Warlord Dexmar was receiving similar reports from all fronts. His forces were retreating from positions they had held for months. The humans were not just winning battles, they were breaking the will of his soldiers to fight. "Sir," his intelligence officer reported, "we have lost contact with the 7th Fleet. Last transmission indicated they were engaged with human forces. What happened to them?" Dexmar demanded. "Unknown, sir. The human ships seemed to be using ramming tactics. Our ships tried to retreat, but the humans followed them." "They followed a retreating fleet?" "Yes, sir. Across 2 star systems, they would not stop hunting us." Dexmar felt a chill run through his body. His people were warriors, but they were also practical. They fought for territory, resources, and glory. But these humans seemed to fight for different reasons. They fought because their friends were threatened. They fought because they had given their word. They fought because they believed their cause was right. Most terrifying of all, they fought as if they enjoyed it. The Vorthan Empire was facing its first real defeat in generations. Not because they lacked firepower or numbers, but because they had encountered a species that refused to be defeated. The humans had turned the war from a conquest into a hunt. And the Vorthans were no longer the hunters for the first time in the war. Dexmar began to wonder if his empire had made a terrible mistake. They had attacked a peaceful civilization, expecting easy victory. Instead, they had awakened something that should have been left alone. The pack hunters were coming, and they would not stop until every threat to their new friends was eliminated. Colonel Janet Pierce stood on the bridge of the human command ship, watching the tactical display show the Vorthan retreat. For the first time in months, the enemy was running. 3 star systems that had been under Vorthan control were now free. "General Morrison," she reported over the communication link, "the enemy has abandoned the Kepler sector completely. They left behind equipment, supplies, and even some of their wounded." "They are scared," Morrison replied from his flagship. "Time to show them what scared really means. Begin Operation Hunter." Operation Hunter was the first major human offensive of the war. Instead of defending against Vorthan attacks, the humans would hunt down the enemy fleet and destroy it completely. The alien commanders were disturbed by the plan's casualty projections. "General," Admiral Kethver said during the planning meeting, "your battle plan shows expected losses of 40%. No civilization can sustain such casualties." "Admiral, we are not talking about casualties," Morrison corrected. "We are talking about investments. 40% losses now means 0% losses later when the war is over." The Xanathi admirals. Six eyes blinked rapidly. "You speak of your soldiers' lives as investments?" "Every human soldier who dies protecting this galaxy is an investment in peace," Morrison said simply. "They understand this. That is why they volunteer for the dangerous missions," Captain Ben Foster prepared his special operations team for the deepest strike of the war. Their target was a Vorthan supply base 3 systems behind enemy lines. The mission required them to cross hostile territory with no support and no backup. "Remember," Foster told his team, "we are not just soldiers anymore, we are hunters. The Vorthans have been the predators in this galaxy for too long. Time to show them what real predators look like." Demolitions expert Tony Miller checked his explosives one final time. "Sir, intel says the base is defended by 2,000 Vorthan troops." "Good," Foster replied. "More targets." Scout Maria Lopez studied the star charts. "Sir, the route to the target will take us through 3 systems controlled by the enemy. If we are discovered, we will be trapped." "Then we do not get discovered," Foster said. "Simple?" The mission began with a technique that terrified the galactic military observers. The human team used what they called hard entry boarding. Instead of using normal docking procedures, they flew their ship directly into the side of a Vorthan. Transport, breaching the hull, and fighting their way inside. "This is insane," whispered Krell observer Datastream Holwyn as he watched the action through sensors. "They are using their ship as a weapon. They are using everything as a weapon," noted Syrian analyst QuickThink Nolver. "Tools, debris, even parts of their own equipment. These humans turn anything into a means of destruction." The human team fought their way through the Vorthan ship, room by room. The enemy had never faced boarders who seemed to enjoy close quarters combat. Most species tried to avoid hand-to-hand fighting. Humans seemed to prefer it. Foster and his team reached the ship's bridge in 12 minutes. The Vorthan crew surrendered immediately, unable to understand how 6 humans had defeated a crew of 40 trained soldiers. "Where are your main supply bases?" Foster asked the Vorthan captain. "I will tell you nothing," the alien replied, trying to sound brave. Foster smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "You will tell us everything. Because if you do not, we will ask your crew. And they have seen what we do to people who fight us." The psychological warfare was as effective as the physical combat. The Vorthans had built their empire on fear, but they had never faced an enemy that was more frightening than they were. Admiral Morrison coordinated the largest human fleet action of the war. 50 human vessels against 120 Vorthan ships. By all military logic, the humans should have retreated or requested reinforcements. Instead, they attacked. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison," came the voice over the fleet. Communication system. "Today we hunt. Today we show the galaxy that Earth's children do not back down from bullies. Attack Formation Alpha, let them see what Deathworld Inhabitants can do." The space battle was unlike anything in galactic history. Human ships flew directly into Vorthan formations, using ramming attacks and point-blank weapon exchanges. The aliens watched in horror as human crews deliberately put their ships in the path of enemy fire to protect other vessels. Commander Paul Stevens flew his cruiser directly into the side of a Vorthan battleship. The impact destroyed both vessels, but it also created an opening for 3 other human ships to break through the enemy line. "Stevens," Admiral Morrison called over the radio. "Report your status." "Ship is gone, sir," Stevens replied calmly. "From his escape pod, but we took the battleship with us." "Good trade." The Vorthan fleet commander could not understand what he was seeing. Ships and crews were valuable resources. They should be preserved and protected. But the humans threw them away like bullets from a gun. "How can they fight like this?" he asked his tactical officer. "Do they not value their own lives?" "They seem to value victory more than survival," the officer replied. "It is not logical, but it was effective." The human fleet, despite being outnumbered more than 2 to 1, was winning the battle. Their willingness to sacrifice ships and lives for tactical advantage was breaking the Vorthan formation. On the planet below, Captain Foster's team had reached their target. The Vorthan supply base was massive, covering several square kilometers and defended by advanced weapon systems. "Sir," Miller reported, "I can take out the main power plant, but I will need to get within 50 meters." The radiation will kill me in about 10 minutes. Do it, Foster ordered. We will cover you. Sir, 10 minutes is not enough time to escape. The blast radius, Lopez pointed out. Foster looked at his team. Then we make sure the mission succeeds. Miller, blow the reactor. Everyone else, we hold this position until it is done. The final assault was a human specialty, a suicide mission that no sane species would attempt. Miller ran across open ground under heavy fire, planted his explosives on the reactor core, and activated the timer. 2 minutes until detonation. He reported, I am staying to make sure no one tries to disarm it. Copy that, Miller, Foster replied. See you on the other side? The explosion destroyed the entire supply base and everything within a 5-kilometer radius. Foster's team was gone, but they had eliminated the main Vorthan supply depot for 3 sectors. News of the mission spread through the Vorthan fleet. An entire major base had been destroyed by 6 humans. The psychological impact was devastating. Warlord. Vexmar received the reports with growing despair. His forces were not just losing battles. They were losing the will to fight. His soldiers were afraid to go on patrol because they might encounter humans. Sir, his intelligence officer reported, we are receiving requests for transfer from 12 different units. They do not want to fight the humans anymore. This is impossible, Vexmar said. We are warriors. We do not flee from battle. The humans are different, the officer replied. They do not fight for conquest or glory. They fight for revenge. And they do not stop. The Vorthan Empire was learning what it meant to be hunted, by a species that considered hunting the most natural thing in the universe. The humans had turned the entire war into one massive hunting expedition, and the Vorthans were the prey. The tide of war had completely reversed. The species that had terrorized the galaxy for months was now running from a force 1/10 their size. The humans were coming, and nothing in the universe could stop them. The final assault on the Vorthan home system began at dawn, Galactic Standard Time. Admiral Lisa Parker led the combined human and alien fleet through the outer defense grid. Like a spear thrust into the heart of the enemy empire, behind her flew ships from every species in the Galactic Defense Council, but everyone knew the humans would lead the charge. All ships, this is Admiral Parker, her voice carried across the fleet communication system. Today we end this war. Today we show the galaxy that bullies always lose in the end. Attack Formation Delta. Let them see what happens when you threaten our friends. General Jake Morrison stood in the dropship with his assault troops, preparing for the ground invasion of Vorthan Prime. The planet below was the center of an empire that had terrorized the galaxy for generations. Soon it would be just another conquered world. Listen up, Morrison told his soldiers. This is what we came here for. Every battle we have fought, every friend we have lost, it all leads to this moment. We are going to end this war today. Lieutenant. Colonel Ryan Torres checked his weapon one final time. Beside him stood the veterans who had fought since the first day. Sergeant Danny Walsh, Medic Amy Johnson, Engineer Pete Collins, and dozens of others who had survived the impossible odds. Sir, Walsh said, it has been an honor serving with you. The honor is mine, Sergeant, Torres replied. Now let us go finish this. The dropship screamed through the atmosphere of Vorthan Prime as enemy fire lit up the sky around them. The planet's surface was covered with massive cities and military installations. This was the heart of an empire that had conquered dozens of worlds. The humans landed in the middle of the capital city, directly in front of the planetary command center. Other species would have established a perimeter and slowly advanced. The humans went straight for the throat. Torres to all units, the colonel's voice crackled over the radio. Advance on all fronts. No stopping, no retreating. We end this today. The street fighting was brutal. Vorthan soldiers fought desperately to defend their homeworld, but they were facing an enemy that had spent months learning how to kill them efficiently. The humans moved through the city like a force of nature, unstoppable and relentless. Kate. Murphy used her explosives to clear roadblocks and fortify positions. This is for Foster and his team, she said as each blast destroyed another enemy strongpoint. Alex Carter provided sniper support from rooftops, picking off Vorthan officers and heavy weapon crews. "This is for every colony you destroyed," he whispered as each shot found its target. Above in orbit, the space battle raged with equal intensity. Human ships drove deep into the Vorthan fleet, accepting massive damage to get close enough for devastating attacks. The alien crews watched in amazement as human vessels rammed enemy ships even when they could have escaped. Commander Paul Stevens had survived his last ship's destruction and now commanded a new vessel. "All human ships, follow my lead. We are going straight through their formation. Anyone who wants to live forever can transfer to alien ships." No one transferred. The human crews followed Stevens directly into the heart of the enemy fleet, their ships trading shot for shot with vessels twice their size. Admiral Kethfer watched the battle from his flagship, still struggling to understand how humans could fight so effectively. "Commander Nixtal, what are our casualties?" 15% and rising, his tactical officer reported. "But sir, the human casualties are over 40%, and they are still advancing." "How is that possible?" "They do not seem to consider casualties relevant to their decision-making," Nixtal replied. "As long as they can complete their mission, they continue fighting." On the planet's surface, Torres and his team had fought their way to within a kilometer of the planetary command center. The building was a massive fortress that had stood for 1,000 years, symbol of Vorthan power and dominance. "Sir," reported Communications Specialist Nick Taylor, "we are receiving surrender offers from 12 different Vorthan units. They want to negotiate." "Tell them to surrender unconditionally or keep fighting," Torres replied. "We do not negotiate with bullies." The assault on the command center was the ultimate test of human military doctrine. The building was defended by the best Vorthan troops, equipped with the most advanced weapons in their arsenal. By every military calculation, the assault should have failed. The humans took the building in 3 hours. They used tactics that violated every rule of civilized warfare. They climbed walls that should have been unscalable. They fought through corridors filled with poison gas. They kept advancing even when their equipment failed and their ammunition ran low. "This is insane," whispered Vorthan Defense Minister Kralthex as he watched human soldiers fight their way through his supposedly impregnable fortress. "They should have died a dozen times over." "They are Deathworld Inhabitants," his aide replied. "Death is just another challenge to overcome." "Warlord." Vexmar sat in his command chair, watching his empire crumble around him. The humans had broken through every defense, defeated every counterattack, and were now fighting in the corridors outside his command chamber. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving surrender requests from our fleets in 7 star systems. Our forces are in full retreat." "How many humans are there?" Vexmar asked. "Less than 10,000 soldiers, sir. But they have broken the will of our entire military." The door to the command chamber exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris stepped Colonel Torres, his uniform torn and bloody but his weapon steady in his hands. Behind him came Walsh, Johnson, Collins, and a dozen other human soldiers. "Warlord Vexmar," Torres said calmly, "I am Colonel Ryan Torres of the Human Expeditionary Force. You will surrender immediately and order all Vorthan forces to stand down." Vexmar looked at the humans who had destroyed his empire. They were smaller than his warriors, equipped with simpler weapons, and vastly outnumbered. "But they had won. What are you?" he asked quietly. "We are humans," Torres replied. "We come from a world that tried to kill us every day of our lives. We learned to fight back. And we learned to protect our friends," added Walsh. The surrender of the Vorthan Empire was broadcast across the galaxy. The war that had threatened to destroy galactic civilization was over. The humans had won not through superior technology or overwhelming numbers, but through simple, unstoppable determination. Admiral Kethfer stood before the Galactic Council delivering his final report on the war. "The humans have proven to be effective allies," he said carefully. "However, I recommend strict regulations on their military deployment." "Why?" asked Ambassador Quindle. Because they are the most dangerous species in known space, Kethver replied. They fight like they enjoy it. They take casualties that would break any other species and keep advancing. They turn everything into a weapon, including themselves. But they fought to protect us, pointed out Syrian Representative Logicflow Kefner. Yes, Kethver agreed. And that is the only reason we are still alive to have this conversation. The Human Embassy was established on the Council homeworld, with Dr. Helen Brooks as the first human ambassador. General Morrison returned to Earth to train the next generation of human soldiers. The galaxy had learned that peace was possible, but only when the most dangerous species in space was on your side. The final report on human capabilities was classified at the highest levels. It concluded that human children's games were more dangerous than military training for most species. Human survival camping was deadlier than active combat duty, and human teenagers playing sports exhibited aggression levels that would terrify veteran warriors from other species. The galaxy had asked for reinforcements and received Deathworld Inhabitants. They had won the war, but everyone understood that humanity was both protector and potential threat. As long as humans considered the galaxy their friends, peace would reign, but if humanity ever decided the galaxy was their enemy, no force in the universe could stop them. The age of human protection had begun, and the galaxy slept safely for the first time in generations.